Are you planning a Walt Disney World trip? Are you wondering how much it's going to cost? How much money you'll need when you're there? Are you undecided about whether to stay on-site, if you should stay at a value resort, a moderate resort, or a deluxe resort? What's the difference in price? Then this video is for you. I'm going to be answering all your questions and so much more. We recently returned from what can only be described as a trip of a lifetime, an epic 15-night staying at Walt Disney World in Disney World hotels. We'd never stayed on site before. We'd been to Orlando a few times, but never stayed in the Disney bubble. And I can tell you right now, I am converted forever. If you're new here, then welcome back. Thank you for tuning in again, and make sure you say hi in the comments. As you probably know, I'm pretty good at responding really quickly to comments, and I love having a chat. So please do say hi below. If you are new here, then I'm Sam. I started this channel to document our happily ever after once our little boy, baby Jack, was born. I am a financial advisor by day, and I do have a bit of a weird fascination with figures. So on our recent Walt Disney World trip, I kept every single receipt from the entire trip, even down to when we bought popcorn or a bottle of Coke or a bottle of water or something like that. So I've kept every single receipt. I've compiled them into a spreadsheet for you just to make this vlog. If you would like a copy of the spreadsheet, then please head over to our website. The link's in the description below, and then you can sign up for it there and I'll get it sent across to you. Make sure you hit subscribe here on YouTube, and please click the like button because it's an amazing way to tell YouTube to push this video out to new viewers, and we'd really appreciate the help in supporting our little channel. Okay, let's get started. How to get to Walt Disney World. From the UK, you can fly direct to Orlando, usually with Virgin or British Airways. There are routes that you can take indirect where you change in either like New York or something like that in the States, but there is an indirect flight route with Aer Lingus that will take you from the UK to Dublin. You go through US immigration in Dublin before then the longer flight from Dublin over. I haven't personally done it, but I've heard really, really good things about it, and it would be really nice to go through immigration near the beginning of your flights, knowing that when you get to Orlando, you haven't got to do anything other than grab your luggage and off you go. You can get right into that Disney bubble as soon as possible. But my first cost-saving tip is Airmiles. If you haven't heard of Airmiles before, or you don't know how they work, then I'm going to give you a little brief explanation of them now. There are two main programs that we've always used to get to Orlando, and one of them is the Virgin Flying Club and the other is British Airways Avios. They're both basically Air Miles. They both call them points now rather than Air Miles. All you have to do is set up an account, which is free, directly with Virgin's Flying Club or with British Airways who use Avios, and I will pop the links below for you in the description as well. I would suggest having a look at which airline you're likely to use more. For us, it's always ended up being Virgin. I don't really know why, but it just always has been. We like to fly from Heathrow now just because it's a little bit closer to us, and British Airways still go from Gatwick as far as I'm aware. We do have both of these air miles, but we rarely focus on British Airways. As I said, for us, we focus on Virgin Atlantic. However, we have used our British Airways Avios for things like car hire and hotels and airport stays as well. So on our recent trip, we actually paid only £25 for our overnight hotel at Heathrow before we went over to Heathrow in the morning to get our flight. So 25 quid, stayed at the Ibis, just across the road from Heathrow. It was brilliant, and we used our Avios to do that. So every flight that you take with airlines that offer collecting air miles, you'll generally accrue 1 point per 1 mile flown. So it means if you're going to Orlando, you're gonna get a few thousand there, and then you're gonna get a few thousand back. So that's a great start. If you've flown recently with an airline and you haven't collected air miles, they do usually offer a policy where you can claim them back. So I would definitely suggest doing that. As I said, it's a great few extra 1,000 miles that you'll be collecting there. Other ways to increase your air miles collection. So first of all, Tesco's. Tesco's is a great way to do it. For all of your shopping, all your petrol spending, your food shopping at Tesco's, as long as you're swiping your Tesco club card, when you log into your club card account, you'll see how many points you've got, and you can transfer those to Virgin. So what you'll need to do is link up your Virgin Flying Club with Tesco's. I think you can do it for British Airways as well, and then it will just transfer it across. 1 point equals 1 mile. You can do exactly the same at Sainsbury's using your Nectar card as well. 1 point, 1 mile. Another thing I learned very recently actually was about Virgin's Shops Away website. So again, I will pop the link below in the description for that. But it's a great way of, if you're going to be doing any online shopping at places like Apple, John Lewis, Sports Direct, Currys, there's a whole variety of shops there. But if you go to Shops Away first, log in, and then click their link to go to that retailer, you'll get additional points. So if you are going to be going to Let's say Apple, for example, I know at the moment they've got 4 points per pound. So for every £1 you spend at Apple, and definitely read the T's and C's because it's not on all items, then you're going to get 4 points for every mile. So you spend £1,000, you're going to get 4,000 points, which you wouldn't have got otherwise. Okay, so another really good way of building up air miles is credit cards. Now, this comes with a caveat. I may be a financial advisor by day, but this is in no way constitutes me giving you any kind of financial advice. I am purely telling you the pros of collecting air miles with a credit card. There are big cons in the fact that if you've struggled with credit cards before, or you're just not really confident with using them, I would say stay clear. It is not worth the risk of you potentially getting yourself into any financial sticky troubles. So I would stay away if that resonates with you. However, if you're already somebody that spends on a credit card regularly, then this could be a very good way just to build up some extra points while you're doing what you usually do. As with all credit cards, you get 56 days interest free. So basically what that means is when you make a purchase on a credit card, you've got 56 days to clear it in full before they'll start charging you interest. Interest is generally very, very high on credit cards, and air mile credit cards are no exception to sort of 60% upwards. It's very, very high. So if you're going to do this, make sure you're clearing the balance in full each month, and then you're getting your air miles for free. So the two main ones that we actively use are the Virgin Atlantic credit card, not to be confused with the Virgin Money credit card. That's not the same thing. If you're getting it to collect air miles, you need to use the Virgin Atlantic credit card, not the Virgin Money credit card. The other one is an American Express charge card. So American Express, there are certain American Express cards where you can collect points. Those points, very similar to sort of Tesco's and Sainsbury's, you can log in and convert those points to air miles or air points. I'm going to keep calling them air miles, even though the airlines seem to be calling them points now, just to make it a little bit less complicated. With the American Express points, you can change them either to Virgin Flying Club air miles or to British Airways Avios air miles. So this is a very, very good way of doing it and accumulating points if you're not sure whether you're going to be flying with Virgin or with British Airways. Again, one credit card point equals 1 air mile. The downsides of Amex, or American Express, Amex for short, is it is very, very high interest rate. So it is imperative that you pay it off at the end of every month in full, so you're not actually having to pay any interest. As I said with the Virgin Atlantic one, there's a couple of different cards, and you need the Virgin Atlantic one, not the Virgin Money one. But then to break that down further, the Virgin Atlantic credit cards, there are two. One of them is a free one and one of them is a charged one. The free one is completely free, and again, as long as you're paying your balance off in full at the end of every month, it's not going to cost you a penny. The other one actually costs at the moment £160 a year. We used to have the free one, and then one year we tried going on to the paid one to see if it really made that much of a difference. The difference was huge. We rack up so many miles without even realising it, and I don't really understand how, because we don't do that much spending on it. We just do our, food shopping and our petrol spending, and any bigger purchases that we make, any like paying for holidays and stuff like that go on there. Well, maybe that's why. But yeah, we do get a lot more points on the paid one. So for us, that £160 a year is worth it. Again, the interest rate is high, so make sure you pay it off in full each month. So after all of that information, how many air miles do you need to get to Orlando and back from the UK? It's usually around 25,000 miles per person, and that's a return. So essentially 12,500 miles each way. Now, there are peak periods, so if you're flying directly over Easter or Christmas, that's going to be a little bit more. I have seen them go up to 50,000 miles per person before. We've never paid that. Each time we've been over Easter, it's ended up being about 35,000 air miles per person. Let's say we're basing this on that it's a 25,000 miles per person, and it's 4 fully grown adults that are going. You're going to end up paying 100,000 miles. Costs on top of that, you just pay taxes and fees. So when we went on our recent trip, and it was 2 adults, a 4-year-old and a lap infant, Jack still being 1 year old, he was just sat on our laps, we paid £964 total for our flights. For the 4 of us to go direct with Virgin to Orlando was £964. I did have a look and see what that would have cost if we've done the same flights without air miles and just paid for them outright, and it was £2,328. it's a big difference. So if you fancy saving £1,365 and putting that towards your dining and your merchandise costs, I would strongly suggest you look at Airmiles. For comparison, looking now, because obviously we booked our flights last year for this trip, but looking to book now for say next year, the flight costs for 2 adults and 2 children, each child having their own seat, because Jack will have his own seat next time, the cost is actually £962, so it is cheaper. The only thing I can put that down to is that last year, as everything was opening back up, the costs were a lot higher, just because there was a lot more demand. I'll also pop below links to the cards that we use as well, so you can see which ones it is. Okay, next, airport transfers. You've managed to get yourself from home to the airport to Orlando, and you're now legally in the United States. How are you going to get to Disney? So, we've weighed this up so many times. Now that the Magical Express is no longer there, which is what was Disney's free shuttle, they would take you from Orlando Airport right to your Disney hotel, and it was free, it was included. Since COVID, it hasn't been there, and it doesn't look like it's going to be coming back anytime soon. So every time we've weighed up whether to use a coach transfer or a shuttle transfer to Disney versus just hiring a car ourselves, we've always ended up hiring a car. The shuttle service that we find gets the best reviews is the Sunshine Flyer, and it's currently $15 per adult each way and $12 per child each way. So if you're going to total that up for 2 adults and 2 children, it's $108. I have heard really good things about them, and they generally seem to get you to your hotel within about 45 minutes. I don't think they do a crazy amount of stops, but unless you pay more to have a private shuttle with them, it is going to take you probably around 45 minutes to get to your hotel, which isn't bad. I don't think that's a bad time period at all. It is going to be quicker if you get a hire car though. If you're not going to be staying on site at Disney and you're going to be staying in like a Good Neighbor hotel, or you're going to be staying in a villa, for example, and having your own place, then the Sunshine Flyer or that sort of shuttle probably isn't going to work for you, especially with a villa. We have stayed in villas before, which is what we've always done prior to this most recent trip. If you're not going to be staying in a Disney hotel, then you may well want to have a look at an Uber, because if you're not staying in a Disney hotel, the Sunshine Flyer is probably not going to take you to where you're staying. If you're not going to be staying in a Disney hotel, or perhaps you're starting at a Universal hotel or another hotel off-site, or you're going to be staying in a villa, then the cost of an Uber for 4 people with luggage from Orlando International Airport, and I've set it to go to Margaritaville just off the 192. So the 192 is one of the main roads through the Walt Disney World area of Orlando. It's got lots of shops and lots of different restaurants, and the Margaritaville area is quite close to Animal Kingdom. So that may well be an area that you would look at if you're staying in a villa. So the cost of getting there for 4 people with luggage from the airport, currently suggesting it'll be about $58 each way. So actually, it's quite similar to the cost of the Sunshine Flyer, but you're going to get there quicker. That's a total of $116, so it's only $8 more than the cost of the Sunshine Flyer, but you're going to be getting there quicker, and you've got then essentially a private transfer. However, to hire a car for 2 weeks, large enough to get your suitcases in, large enough to get 2 adults and 2 children. Now this is not factoring in the cost of car seats. Picking it up at Orlando International Airport and dropping it back there 2 weeks later is currently coming out at about £389 for a large enough car. What we did this time is we actually carried and we took our car seats from home and brought them out to the States with us. We've done that a couple of times before. We always find it worthwhile. I like knowing that the kids' seats are safe because they're our own. It is a bit of a pain to transport them. We've got one whacking great rucksack that they both fit in, and Carl carries them on his back. So for us, we have always ended up paying for a car and hiring a car. We like the flexibility of knowing that if we're somewhere late out at night, we've been out watching the fireworks, that we don't just want to have to rely on Disney bus transportation. We want to be able to jump back in the car, get back to the hotel and get the boys to bed nice and quickly. We also like the idea if we want to eat in a restaurant off-site, we can just jump in the car and go. We also like if we want to do some shopping off-site, then we can do that too. We do use Disney transport an awful lot and we love it. I cannot fault it, but I do love having our own car to have that flexibility built in. Something to factor in with the cost of the car if you're going to Disney but not staying in a Disney hotel is the cost of the car parking. It's $25 a day for a standard car parking space at a park. So if you're going to the park every single day of your 14-night trip, so let's say you're going into a park for 15 days running, it's an additional $375, so it's a lot more money to include. If you're thinking about hiring a car, for us, when we stayed in Disney hotels this time for the first time, we didn't have that additional cost, so that was a bit of a winner really. Okay, you've made it to Disney. You've passed under the archway, maybe you've cried, you probably have if you're me. Where are you going to be staying? Your options: you've got Disney hotels, you've got Good Neighbor hotels, you've got off-site hotels, and then you've also got villas. We have stayed at off-site hotels before, and you can get some crazy cheap deals. So this is going to be if you're staying on the 192 or maybe on International Drive, which is what I did in 1999 when I went as a child with my mum and dad. In my experience, you do get what you pay for. They're quite often very basic, especially if you're going to be going for something cheap. I would definitely look on TripAdvisor at the reviews, because I know you hear some horror stories about bed bugs and stuff like that. You also hear some really good experiences, and if you're just going to be going in and out of the parks all day and you aren't going to be spending, you know, really any time at the hotel or the room, then this very well could be the way forward for you. So I would suggest what you need to be asking yourself is, do you need a pool? Do you need multiple pools? Do you want a slide, a water slide? Do you want restaurants? Do you just want a food court? Do you want character dining? All of those different things, they're going to help you decide where is best for you to stay. I did have a look at some hotel prices to go over the Easter holidays next year. For a hotel with a good review for 2 adults and 2 children for 2 weeks, it came to £826. For 2 weeks, that's all your accommodation. Now that's not a hotel that's got loads of bells and whistles. That's probably going to have a very basic food court if it's got one at all. It might have a basic pool. It's not going to have slides and stuff like that. So in comparison, if you wanted to look at a villa for those same 2 weeks, again, close to Disney World, it's got its own pool. It may well have a hot tub there as well. I've put this at within 10 minutes driving distance from Disney, so it's relatively close. And the cost comes to about £2,700, so it's quite a bit more. However, that will sleep up to 8 people. That's across 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. Some of the theming of these villas are incredible. We stayed in a villa last trip, so that was in 2019 we stayed in a villa, and there was 8 of us, and it was brilliant. It had like a cinema in it, it had a big pool out the back that was all undercover, it had a hot tub and you could sit in the hot tub and you could see Magic Kingdom fireworks from there. Don't get me wrong, it was a distance away, but you could see them, and it was only, I don't know, a 10-minute drive to get across into Animal Kingdom. It was really close. In all honesty, mileage wise it was much closer. It's just because you have to cross the 192, so you generally got caught in traffic lights. So if there's a larger group, if you're going, a villa could be the way forward, because when you're splitting that £2,700 down per person, it could work out cheaper. Okay, now let's talk Disney hotels. My favourite part. As I said, I'm converted forever. We'd stayed at Disney hotels at Disneyland Paris before, but never at Walt Disney World until this trip. Knowing that it was the first time, I wanted to experience everything. So we actually ended up spending 5 nights in a value hotel, 5 nights in a moderate hotel, and 5 nights at a deluxe hotel. So that's how Disney breaks their hotels down, that they fit into one of those 3 categories. You cannot beat a Disney hotel, but you may end up paying for it. So that's what I'm going to have a look at now. First of all, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what's included with these different types of resorts and which hotels fall into which categories. And then I'm going to break it down of how much we stay during each stay. Now, to make it easier, we did stay for 5 nights at each one, so it should work out quite proportionately accurate. Okay, Disney Value Resorts. These are big and bold and fun and loud. They are brilliant. They have a huge swimming pool. There's no water slides at a value resort. It is purely just a pool, but it's a big, fun, loud pool. It's great for kids. Kids absolutely love it, and it's heavily Disney themed. In your face Disney theming. It was so much fun, and I couldn't fault them really. The value resorts are also the cheapest. It means you aren't right on a Disney park doorstep. It means that you may only have the Disney bus transportation to rely on, unless you've booked car hire, of course. Value resort rooms are all very similar. They generally have 1 large bed and then another pull down bed. So we had 2 double beds in ours. We also then requested a crib for Jack, because that's where he stayed in. But there was plenty of room to put all our suitcases under the beds. There was plenty of room for the crib at the side of the bed. We also had drawers. There was another little area that had a fridge in it, because they do all have a fridge and they all have a hairdryer. Then we had our kind of like little dressing area. It was a small wardrobe in our value resort, and we had a single sink, and then you have your bathroom, your overhead shower, and your toilet as well. They were very clean, they were very comfortable, they were absolutely fine. They had subtle theming in the rooms, just some like pictures of Mickey and things in there. The downside, I would say, is that we're very loud, so we paid extra to stay in a preferred room. The difference between a preferred room and a standard room is purely location. The rooms are the same. We had a preferred room, but we were right outside where Movies Under the Stars is, and while the film was on at night, it was loud. It didn't start until 8:30, so on any night that we did go to bed earlier, I mean, you could really hear it word for word. It didn't seem to affect the boys. They were so tired they just crashed out anyway, but you could hear it. The other tip I would give you as well is we had a connecting room. We weren't connecting with anyone, it was just one of those rooms that was adjoining. And we think the people next door put their baby's crib up against the door, the adjoining door. I wouldn't say they were particularly loud, they weren't shouting, anything like that, but they had young children, and there were nights when we were kept awake because the noise was so loud. The baby kept crying, and then if they came in later than we did, you could really hear them. So my biggest tip would be to request a room that is not adjoining, it's not a connecting room, and that should hopefully keep the noise level down. They all come with a TV, so as soon as you walk into the room and it says, you know, welcome Mitchell family, oh, that was the best, I loved that. They all have TVs. They also all have a safe. Don't do what we did where we took our key with us by mistake. We left our passports in the safe and then we would charge $35 to have the keys redone for the next person staying in that room. So not ideal. Remember, if you have hired a car, if you're staying on site at Disney, there is no additional cost. You're not going to be paying $25 a day for it. So you can park your car free at a Disney resort if you're staying there. If you're just visiting a resort for a day, say you're going for a dining reservation, something like that, to one of the Disney hotels, you don't have to pay to do that either. So which resorts are value resorts? You've got the 3 all-star resorts, All-Star Movies, Music and Sports, then you've got Pop Century and Art of Animation. The all-star resorts are usually the 3 cheapest resorts, and those ones just have bus transportation. Then you've got Art of Animation and Pop Century. It was actually Pop Century that we stayed at. Pop Century and Art of Animation also have the Disney Skyliner, which is a total game changer for a value resort. The Skyliner was amazing. I literally only have one criticism for it, and it's not really a criticism. It's just annoying that you can't just stroll on a double pram. If you've got a double pram for safety reasons from the fire department, they say you can't, you have to flat pack it. So when Jack was asleep, we had to get him out so we could get fold the pram up, get it on before we could get on board. And it was annoying, but I get it, it's for safety. You know, there's only so much you can do about that, which is nothing, just grin and bear it. Other than that, I absolutely loved the Skyliner. So we got from our room at Pop Century into the gates of Hollywood Studios within 15 minutes. It is amazing. You can go from Pop Century and Art of Animation straight to the Caribbean Beach Resort, where you then either get on one that takes you to Hollywood Studios or you get on one that takes you to the Riviera Resort and then on to Epcot. We used it an awful lot. The 5 nights that we had at Pop Century, we didn't use the car at all. I don't think we used it once. Maybe apart from when we went shopping for one day, but that was about it. We just used the Skyliner for everything. It is fabulous, you can't beat it. And it's free. It's included for free, you don't pay to use the Skyliner. And just FYI, all the vlogs from our recent trip are in the link below, so I'll pop that in the description too. Generally the most expensive of the value resorts is Art of Animation. One, it's got Little Mermaid themed rooms, which I love, but it also has these family suites, and you can pay quite a lot of money for family suites, to the point where if you're going at the wrong time of year and it's really expensive and you're paying for a family suite, you may well be able to stay at a Deluxe hotel. However, you do get a lot of space in the family suite, so it may well be worth considering. Okay, moderate resorts. Now this was actually the first place that we stayed. So Port Orleans Riverside is a moderate resort. It was the first Walt Disney World hotel we ever stayed in, and for me it's always going to hold a very, very special place in my heart. We loved Port Orleans Riverside, and it does prove very, very popular among UK guests. It's on the river, and therefore, yes, you can get the buses everywhere. You can use Disney bus transportation, but you can also get the boat directly from Riverside down the river to Disney Springs. So that's a great little add-on too. There's also Port Orleans French Quarter, which is kind of like just down and across the other side of the river. So it gets very, very good reviews. And UK residents also seem to love Port Orleans French Quarter. This is also where you get your Mickey beignets, which might be why it's very, very popular. The other moderate resorts are the Coronado Springs and the Caribbean Beach Resort. Location is key with these resorts. I had to change the dates here as it looks like Coronado Springs have sold out of their cheaper rooms for these dates. Usually Coronado Springs is the cheapest of the 4 purely because of its location. It's not really near anything. It's classed as an Animal Kingdom area hotel. It's not that near Animal Kingdom. It's only got bus transportation. it doesn't offer any other kind of transportation service. But Caribbean Beach is a great option. It's right on the Skyliner route, and it's at the interchange area that I mentioned a moment ago. So from here you can go direct to Riviera and then on to Epcot. Straight, you can go to Pop Century and Art of Animation, or direct to Hollywood Studios. The resort is lovely as well. I know a lot of people really love it. It's very big, and you could well have a room that's quite a long way away from the main amenities. But I know lots of people who've stayed here and really like it, and it is beautiful. When you fly over it on the Skyliner, it's a beautiful looking resort. For the moderate resorts, they've all got pools, but they all have slides too. They all have quick service food courts, but they also have sit down restaurants. So they're definitely upgrades to the value resorts. And I think value for money at moderate resorts is excellent if your budget can afford it, because you do get a lot more for your money. Okay. Finally, Disney Deluxe resorts. These are the stuff that Disney dreams are absolutely made of. These are the hotels in the best locations. They're the hotels with the best restaurants, with the best pools, the best slides, the best rooms, the best views, everything. They also generally have the best transportation options as well. These are generally the closest to the parks. They also have character dining as well. So if you want to be meeting Mickey or your favorite Disney princess in your hotel, then you're probably going to want to have a look at staying at a Deluxe resort. But you will pay for it. They are very expensive. They all have the most incredible theming. This is where you can sit on your balcony and look out over giraffes and zebras for your breakfast in the savannah. This is where you can sit on your balcony at night time and watch Magic Kingdom fireworks. These are really going to be giving you the best experience, the best Disney experiences possible. But as I said, you will pay for it. The rooms are bigger. We had a Moana room at the Polynesian on our recent stay, and the room was huge. The beds are much bigger. There's a lot more space. They include coffee machines and extra toiletries. They've also got Hey Disney, which is the Alexa in-room service where you can ask it anything from the weather to park opening times. That was a handy little add-on and the boys loved it. A quick overview of the Disney Deluxe Resort. So first off, let's start with generally the cheapest one, which is Animal Kingdom Lodge. The reason it's cheapest is not because it's not as good, because I would argue to say it's absolutely one of the best. I adore Animal Kingdom Lodge, but it's about location. It's obviously close to Animal Kingdom, but you cannot walk to it. There is no Skyliner there is no boat service, it is purely bus transportation, or if you've hired a car, you can obviously drive. It is on the savannah and it is amazing and absolutely magical, and the theming there is incredible. Then you've got the Epcot area resort. So this is Disney's Beach Club Resort, Yacht Club Resort, and Boardwalk. Now all of these are within walking distance of Hollywood Studios and Epcot. There are rooms at Beach Club where you are literally a 90-second walk from the International Gateway gates at the back of Epcot. So if you're going to be spending a lot of time at Epcot and Hollywood Studios, I would consider these three hotels. And you've also got the Skyliner right there. So for transportation and location to parks for Epcot and Hollywood Studios, these are brilliant. Beach Club and Yacht Club share a pool and it's called Stormalong Bay. It is arguably the best pool on Disney property, and it's almost like a mini water park in itself. It's brilliant. It's got a sand bottom pool, it's got a lazy river, it's got slides. It's fabulous. I would stay at Beach Club just for Stormalong Bay. Then you've got the monorail resorts. The monorail resorts are the ones that are closest to Magic Kingdom. First off, let's start with the Wilderness Lodge. Now this is very much similar to Sequoia Lodge at Disneyland Paris. It's beautiful. It's got a huge atrium, got that very, very foresty feel. At Christmas, it is beautiful. It is a bucket list thing for me to stay there at Christmas time. Wilderness Lodge, you can get the bus or the boat to Magic Kingdom. Then you've got the Polynesian, and we absolutely adored our stay there. When I walked into the lobby, I did cry. I didn't realise that you could see Cinderella's castle from the lobby. That's how much of a straight shot view you've got there. And I did cry. It smells incredible. It looks incredible. I felt like I was in Hawaii. The theming here is amazing, but you've also got some of the best restaurants. Ohana's character dining with Lilo, Stitch and Mickey is at this hotel. You've also got Trader Sam's, which is an infamous Disney bar. You'll have to watch the vlog on that one to see what we thought and whether or not we got in, because that has an interesting story. The Polynesian is a monorail resort, as I said, and the monorail, you get on it from the first floor of the Great Ceremonial Hall. If you're American and watching this, that is the second floor. Obviously for us in the UK, ground and then first, so it's that second floor up. So that's where you get on the monorail, and that will then take you from there through to Grand Floridian and then on to Magic Kingdom. So that's amazing. I loved being so close to Magic Kingdom. For me, Magic Kingdom is my favourite park, so I loved being in that close of proximity to it. You also then have the Contemporary Resort. Now the monorail goes straight through the middle of this resort. It's also very, very close to Magic Kingdom. You can walk to it, which we have done before. The Contemporary has amazing theming. It's all of the Incredibles, like with the Incredibles rooms. It's got Chef Mickey's there for dining with the Big Five, and it has an epic view of Magic Kingdom. And I know there are some rooms there, a sort of Bay Lake Tower Contemporary area, where you do have the most incredible view of Happily Ever After fireworks. Last but not least, you've got the Grand Floridian of the monorail resorts. Certainly for me, this resort was what I associated with Walt Disney World as a kid. I was 13 before we went to Walt Disney World, and every year before that, Mum and Dad used to get us the promotional videos, which my sister and I would sit on the floor in the lounge and just gawp at the TV. And the Grand Floridian was what I associated with Walt Disney World. So that for me is a firm favourite of all the Disney World hotels that we've been to. This is also Disney's only 5-star hotel. There are other five-star hotels that are good neighbour hotels, like the Waldorf Astoria, but the only one of Disney's own hotels that is 5-star is the Grand Floridian. Price-wise, some of these are hefty, especially when they have sold out of their standard rooms with a standard view, as you can see. You'll also see on this list that there are some other deluxe resorts too, like Old Key West and Saratoga Springs. There's also Kidani Village, and then the villas at Grand Floridian. Now, all of these are DVC resorts, or Disney Vacation Club, which is essentially Disney's own version of timeshare. If you're going to want to be staying in one of these resorts or one of these villas, then I would suggest that you look at renting points from somebody who is a DVC member. So you can go onto something like DVC Rental Store. Again, I'll pop the link for you below, and you can save hundreds and hundreds of pounds booking that way. Okay, park tickets. So this is going to be the only add-on cost that you know you're going to have at Walt Disney World. We are lucky in the UK, we really do get great ticket sale deals. So generally we always have, and it's been like this for years now, it's a 14-day magic ticket for the price of 7 days. So I think last year we paid £1,507 for the 4 of us because Jack was free. He was only 1. You don't pay until they get to 3. So he was free. The 3 of us was £1,507. Next year, I've had a check for the prices. It's £499 for an adult and £479 for a child aged 3 to 9. Once you get to age 10 plus, you're basically an adult in the eyes of Disney. That is the cost of that. They all include park hopping facilities, so you can go in and out of all the parks every day. They all include access to the water parks as well. They include free mini golf, Disney mini golf after 4 p.m. And it also includes Memory Maker, which is where any pictures that you have taken on rides or by Disney photographers, they're going to be uploaded then into your My Disney Experience app, and they will be right there for you, the digital versions, for free, because you've got Memory Maker. And I used and abused it this time. Absolutely used and abused Memory Maker. I've got so many pictures. It's amazing. It's such a good add-on. Right, let's have a look at the spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm starting at the top here. So what I've done at the top is I have broken it down bit by bit. So at the top you can see here our travel costs. We've got our flights, £965.44 using Virgin Flying Club miles, as I said earlier. The car hire came to about £500. Airport parking was £198.89, that was at Heathrow. The airport hotel was only 25 quid because we used our British Airways Avios miles for that. Then we've got the cost of the magic bands, which we actually ordered at home before we arrived, and these were delivered to Port Orleans Riverside, our first hotel. We picked them up from concierge when we checked in. So they were $149. That is 4 of them. They will last us. You have to charge them every 6 months, but they should then last. And then we've got our 5 nights at Port Orleans Riverside, which came to £1,710. Our 5 nights at Pop Century, which was $11.30, so that's the value resort, Riverside being the moderate. And then Polynesian, being the deluxe resort, for 5 nights was £3,520. And then our park tickets for 2 adults, 1 child and the baby being free was £1,507. I have also brought on here the cost of dog kennels because that was £390. That's something that we have to factor into costs. It may not be something that you have to factor in. So as you can see, the grand total was the subtotal rather was £9,946.33, and then dollars for travel was $149, which was the magic bands, totaling when you turn that $149 into British pounds, It's £10,070.53. Was it the most expensive holiday we've ever had by a long, long way? Yeah, absolutely it was. Now, as part of that year's Walt Disney World incentive, we had dining and merchandise credits, and we also got given a gift card by Disney, and that totaled $560. If we go a little bit further down here, what I've done on the left-hand side is put all of the food, and then you can see here I've broken it down by day, all of our food and extra costs. This is not including merchandise. There isn't a single person on this planet that needs to see what we spent on merchandise while we were in Walt Disney World this time. So I haven't put it in. I know what it is because I have figured it out. I did the calculations for myself to see. However, this is all the cost of our food broken down by day. So you can see on that first day when we arrived that we got the refillable mugs. So that was $46.84. So we just got 2 of them. We bought those from Port Orleans Riverside, and I've categorised that as a snack. It was a drink. So it's something that we use all the time. We only got 2 and just shared them between 4 of us. I think these are an absolute winner. I felt like all of our sort of breakfasts and quick service meals that we had in the hotels, in the resorts, were just a lot cheaper than I was expecting because we didn't have to pay for drinks. We paid the $46 the night we got there. That was it. Even though we did a split stay, and each of those hotels, the value, the moderate and the deluxe, we paid for them all and booked them all as separate bookings, but because Disney knew that we were staying on property for a total of 15 nights, as soon as we bought those refillable mugs, it told us that they are good to go for the next 15 nights, which was amazing. And then you can see here, working your way through, all the cost of all of the meals, everywhere we ate, everything that we bought, other than merchandise, all the way through the holiday. So for the full total that we spent on food, etc., on our 15-night trip was $2,763.42. And then if you scroll up, we can take $560 off of that straight away because that was what we had on the gift card. So that totals, so we actually spent $2,203.42. And then if we convert that to pounds, that is currently £1,744.26. Is that a lot of money? Yeah, it is a lot of money. But for 15 nights for 4 of us, I actually don't think that's that bad. We drank what we want when we wanted, and we ate what we want when we wanted, and we bought whatever snacks we wanted. We really didn't think about the price. We'd saved up a long time for this trip, so we just knew that's fine. We'd been saving up dollars for the last few years. We booked the hotels gradually. We'd used Airmiles. We paid for everything sort of like gradually. So I actually don't think that is that bad for 15 nights worth of food. If we break down how much food we spent when we were at a value resort for 5 nights versus being at a moderate resort for 5 nights versus being at a deluxe resort for 5 nights, the differences are quite big, I would say. So the moderate resort, we spent $826.64 total on food, etc., at our 5-night stay there. Then when we moved to Pop Century, and we ate quite a lot of food, well, we ate quite a lot of food everywhere, but whilst we were at Pop Century, they've only got the food court. So we actually spent a total of $737.92 there. Then when we got to the Deluxe Resort, the Polynesian, we only had 5 nights there still, but we actually ended up spending almost $1,200 on food. So it was $1,198.86. I think the reason being is we spent less time in the park there and we spent more time at the resort. They've got more choice of resorts, so we naturally ended up spending more money on food because we weren't just going to the food court like we did at Pop Century, because all they had was the food court. And even though Port Orleans Riverside is a moderate resort and does have sit-down restaurants and not just a food court, actually we ended up eating pretty much the whole time at the food court there. We also drank more alcohol while we were at the Polynesian because that was kind of like the chilled part of the holiday. And if you've seen the vlogs, you'll see what I mean by that, of what we got up to. But yeah, I mean, I think that's significantly more. That's an additional 1/3 of the cost of staying at Deluxe Resort. So not only are you spending a lot more money on the hotel, you're also going to end up spending a lot more money on food and drink there. Now, what I am going to do next is we're going to have a look at the total cost of how much we spent on a 5-night stay at the value resort versus the moderate versus the deluxe. So this time I'm going to include the food, I'm going to include the flights, I'm going to include all the travel costs. So if you were going out just for 5 nights, beginning to end costs for a value resort stay, you can then compare that to a moderate and the same to a deluxe resort. Okay, drum roll please. So to stay at a value resort for 5 nights, including travel and park tickets, all your food, etc., not including any dining and merchandise credits, and this doesn't include the dog kennels either, because I figured not everybody will need that cost. So this is airport parking, this is car hire, this is a hotel the night before at Heathrow, using all the tips and everything that I've told you about today. So that came to, at a value resort, £5,027.50 when you take into account the current exchange rate. To stay at a moderate resort for those 5 nights still over Easter, using all the tips and tricks that I've told you about in this video, that comes to £5,677.73. So it's what, £650 more? Yeah, I would definitely do that. For an extra £650 for 4 people, for the same 5 nights, to stay at a moderate resort rather than the value resort, I would do that. I loved Port Orleans Riverside. We also had an upgraded room because we weren't just in a standard room, we were in a royal guest room, and it wasn't just like a woods view, we did pay to upgrade to a river view. So yeah, £650, I would definitely take that. The Polynesian, so a 5-night stay including everything and all the tips and tricks I've told you about in this video, that comes to £7,582.05, including, like, when you take into account the exchange rate. So that's on top of Pop Century, the value resort. That's an extra 2.5 grand. I'm not gaining any nights from that, that's still just 5 nights. And on top, for the difference then between the Polynesian, the Deluxe resort, and Port Orleans Riverside, the moderate resort, it's nearly an extra £2,000. Was it worth it? Yeah, it really was. I absolutely loved it. Like, I cannot put into words how much I loved staying at the Polynesian, but saying that, staying at Port Orleans Riverside will forever have a piece of my heart. It was the first Walt Disney World hotel we ever stayed in, as I said earlier. I absolutely adored Port Orleans Riverside, and it was so calm and so quiet. And the Polynesian was a lot busier. We were much closer to Easter weekend when we stayed at the Polynesian, which did make a big difference, and it did quieten down before we left. An extra £2,000? Yeah, I would do it again for sure. However, if we were going for 2 weeks, would I stay for 2 weeks at a Deluxe resort knowing the price? No, I wouldn't. I would stay a week at either a value or probably a moderate if it's only going to work out like £600, £650 more. And then maybe, you know, splurge out for the last 5 nights or the last 7 nights or something and stay at a Deluxe then. But I would not be spending all that money to stay at a high-end Deluxe resort that whole time. Now, as I said, if you're going to look at staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge, you're probably going to make a significant saving from that. Also, bear in mind that includes food, and I haven't taken anything off for any dining and merchandise credits that you may get, because they're not guaranteed. It depends on what incentives Walt Disney World are running at that point in time. But I hope that gives kind of like a really clear view of the costs involved, the true cost of a trip to Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Now, you can up the cost on these as much as you want by only eating in full service restaurants. And if you're going to do that, then I would probably suggest that you look at a Disney dining plan. You can also now look at a quick service Disney dining plan. So if you're only going to do quick service meals, it very well could do you well to take on a quick service Disney dining plan where all your food is already paid for before you arrive. If you were going to add on a stay at Universal, that's going to cost more money because you've got the cost of another hotel. You've also got the cost of more tickets, and the tickets are quite often the most expensive thing. So we're not personally looking at doing Universal until the boys are a little bit older. Once they can ride, you know, more of the bigger rides, because for us, I would say I love Universal, but it is all about thrill rides for us, and they're just not old enough. So for us, not right now, but eventually, absolutely. So yeah, I found it really, really interesting doing this. Since I knew I was going to make this video, I knew that I was going to do this. Are you ready? Every single receipt from the whole 15-night trip. Are you ready? Well, it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. And hey, if you ever need me to make this spreadsheet again, I'll happily go back to Walt Disney World for a couple of weeks
and do the exact same experiment. So I hope this has come in of use to you today. You now know the true cost of a full trip to Walt Disney World. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below. I'm generally really quick at getting back to you. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it, just so I know that you have enjoyed it. And then whether this is your first of many Ever After Adventures videos or your one of many, then please make sure you hit subscribe and you click the notification bell so you know when the next video goes live. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll see you on the next vlog. So good night, everyone.